Hey, welcome back to Candy's Story Time. Thank you for tuning in again. And if you're a first time viewer, I hope you enjoy this story. My sole goal is to help children understand that reading can be fun. Okay, it doesn't have to be boring and lame. Reading is an important part of their future. And the more they read, the better they get. And the better they get helps them not to be held back from anything they hope to achieve in life. So sit back and enjoy this story. I hope my grandchildren, Hash Brown, Madiddlin, and Jumpin' Jack, are tuning in and hearing this one. Okay, so here we begin. Look at these beautiful, colorful pictures, and this is Cypress Glade. This is the setting of this story. It is about animals. You can tell that from the front, and these were all different kind of animal homes that we saw. Okay. This story of Spike and Mike was written by Nancy Hall and Mary Packard, and the illustrator, that means the person who did all these pictures, was Lisa McHugh. And another important part of a book is the publisher, because they make sure that the story and the pictures get put into book form. And this publisher that published this was Grolier Enterprises in Danbury, Connecticut. Okay, it all begins. When the big storm came to Mangrove Marsh, things got all mixed up. It blew the roof off of Rapid Rabbit's house. Look at blowing the roof right out. And Mr. Swamp Fox got stuck in Miss Bobcat's chimney. I wouldn't want to be stuck up there during a storm. And when Mrs. Gator checked her nursery, she was worried that one of her eggs might be missing. And look over here, floating right out the door. The wind and the rain swept through Mrs. Egret's nursery, too. Are all of my eggs still here? She wondered. Look close. Are all of her eggs still in the nest? Oh, looky, looky. We got one going out here and an alligator one going out there. Finally, the rain stopped. The howling wind became a gentle breeze, and life returned to normal in Mangrove Marsh. Normal, that is, except for a couple of eggs that were still floating down the river. The two little eggs raced right past Old Man Otter's general store. They floated by Turtle Island and traveled all the way down the canal. At last, they came to rest at the edge of a lily pond in Cypress Glade. So they're floating and floating and floating and floating. Right past the store, we have the sparrow up there fixing her nest in the door to her house. The two eggs had barely settled down in the soft, sweet grass on the bank of the pond when one of them began to quiver and shake. The animal inside began to peck and chip. At last, there was one great big crack, and look who popped out. Phew! Said a little baby alligator as he climbed out of his shell. Let me turn this down just a little bit, sorry. As he came out of his shell. It sure was getting cramped in there. Just then he noticed the other egg nestled beside him. Oh, I have a brother or sister, the alligator exclaimed happily. And he sat down beside the egg to wait and wait and wait. He was going to wait on his brother or sister. When it was nightfall, the world became dark and lonely. The alligator looked at the egg. I won't be lonely for long, he said to himself, and then he whispered, won't you please hurry up? The alligator waited 2 days and 2 nights before the second egg began to quiver and shake. Finally, the alligator cried, and it wasn't long before he heard some pecking and chipping and a great big crack. The alligator watched as a tiny head poked out of its shell. Oh, there's where he poked out. Mama, cried the newborn baby bird. I'm not your mama, laughed the alligator. I'm your brother. The little alligator and the little bird looked at each other carefully. We sure look different, said the bird. Yeah, but I like your soft feathers, said the alligator. And I like your spiky beak. Spike, replied the bird. That That's what I'll call you." "Well, then I'll call you Mike," said the alligator. "We might not look the same, but at least our names sound alike." And they don't look the same, but they think they're brother and sister. They were born right there beside each other. "Hey, where's our nest?" asked Mike. "Nest?" repeated Spike, squishing his toes in the mud. "I thought we'd live on the ground at the edge of the mud pond." "In the mud?" asked Mike with surprise. "No, a home should be dry, not damp," he explained, fluffing his pretty white feathers. "What would happen if he lived in mud?" "He would get all muddy and his feathers wouldn't be fluffy. But what if he lived up in a nest? He would be way high. He could fall out and get hurt." Suddenly, out of nowhere, voices chimed in. "Well, the best of homes are underground," offered a timid young bunny. Where do bunnies live? They live in a hole in the ground. So the bunny thinks that's the best place they should try. "Sticks," said a roly-poly beaver. "You can't beat a house made of sticks. I could help you build it." Do you ever go by a small pond or lake and there's trees and they have like notches out of it all the way around? It's where a beaver's been chewing on it to get it down to make his house. "Lily pads," croaked Gumbo the frog. "My brother and I find lily pads make quite nice homes." "Quite nice," croaked his brother Jimbo in agreement. They like living on a lily pad. An alligator would sink a lily pad. And you know a bird doesn't want to live on one. They can't make a house on one and use the lily pad for the roof and stuff. Soon, Spike and Mike were surrounded by animal friends, each with a different idea about what type of home they should build. "Ridiculous," hissed Slink, slithering up to the group. "You two can't make a home together anyway. Mike is a bird. Birds live in trees. Spike is an alligator. Alligators live down low to the near the water." "Yeah, but we're brothers," exclaimed Mike. He's saying, "Wait a minute, we're brothers." The snake's saying, "You can't live in the same place. You like to live on the ground by the water, and you like to live up high in a tree." "Brothers," all the animals said at once. "How can a bird and an alligator be brothers?" "Well, I don't know," answered Spike, "but we are. We're brothers because we hatched right here, side by side." He's showing in the shells they came out of. They were right there together. The beaver scratched her head, and the frog brothers, they shrugged their shoulders. Soon everyone began talking at once. They're having a hard time trying to figure out how are they brothers. "What's all this racket about?" asked Tallulah, the big old swamp turtle, peeking her head out of her shell. Here she is, Tallulah. "I'd say if they are brothers, then they are. If they say they're brothers, they're brothers." The other animals hesitated. None of them ever questioned Tallulah because she was the oldest and the wisest of them all. "But they don't even look the same," said Scarlet, a pretty flamingo, in very small voice. "Brothers don't have to look alike," Tallulah explained, "and they don't have to act the same either. If these two guys hatched right here, side by side, then they must be brothers." "Do you know what kind of home we should make?" Mike asked Tallulah. But by then, Tallulah had closed her eyes and pulled her head back into her shell. They're asking Tallulah because she is the smartest, the oldest, and the wisest of the forest. Spike looked at the cool, wet earth of the shade of the twisted old cypress tree where Tallulah slept. Look at her sleeping at this tree. Mike looked at, okay, so here we got Spike looking at the wet ground. Okay. Mike looked at the big branches high above the ground. Then Spike looked up high at the branches, and Mike looked down low at the earth. They're looking at each other's favorite place. At that moment, they knew exactly what they had to do. They would build a home like no other home in Cypress Glade, one that would be just right for the both of them. "Oh, we'll have 2 floors," said Spike. "I'll live downstairs." "And I'll live upstairs," cried Mike, flapping his wings. They came up with an idea. They found a perfect place. They're going to have 2 stories, 2 floors. Some of their friends helped Mike build the top floor high up in the tree. See, they're helping get that all ready for Mike. The others worked down below with Spike. All the animals worked and worked and worked until at last Spike and Mike had the perfect home. Look at them all down there helping Spike. They've helped Mike. They've helped them make the perfect home so the brothers could live together. And that's how a baby alligator named Spike and a little white bird named Mike came to be brothers and live together in a big old tree in Cypress Glade. That is the end of that story. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, you can click like. If you did, you can subscribe and you can get notified when I upload new stories. And you can even watch other stories that I have online. I have a lot, and I'm adding more to it, okay? To Hash Brown, Madiddlin, and Jumpin' Jack. Danny just loves you. To the rest of you, here is a hug until the next time you tune into Storytime. Bye.